And you were going to clean the gutters.
What gutters?
On the roof.
Where?
On the edge. The things that collect the water.
I don't know what you mean.
Don't get smart with me.
I don't know.
The drain pipes for the rain.
Come here.
Kids today, I tell you, they just don't make them like they used to. Welcome to Cut to Black, a Sopranos sit-down. I am Jim Scampoli, and I've seen every episode of The Sopranos.
I'm Jacob Burrows, and I've seen, just really these 36, whatever we're at right now. We're on Season 3, Episode 9, the Telltale Moozadell. Gutters, huh? I feel like that's what happens when you go to a new country like I do, and it's like, oh, you mean that thing, but then you never have the realization of what they mean. He never thought about how the water comes down, and I think you've brought up before how they just use AJ perfectly. He doesn't have to be a great actor for that scene to be great. He just has to stare blankly forward, and I loved it.
Yes, the Telltale Moozadell, also known as the Lady Gaga episode, more commonly referred to, because Lady Gaga's in this episode. Did you see that on the old wiki there?
Is she the new love interest or what? I can't even tell.
She's just one of the giggling girls while AJ and his friends are trashing the pool. She's like sitting on the bleachers smoking a cigarette. I don't think she has a line or anything like that. But yes, that's Lady Gaga bursting on the scene in an episode of The Sopranos.
Wow, I've never seen her look not weird, so I didn't recognize her at all.
This episode was written by Michael Imperioli, Christopher Moltisanti himself. It was directed by David Attias, who also directed the second episode, and his son. I mean, this episode aired April 22nd, 2001. Meanwhile, February 23rd, 2001, his son, David Attias, mowed down a bunch of people in his car, killed 4 people, and someone else died 15 years later due to complications of it. He I guess they was brought up on 4 counts of vehicular manslaughter and gross negligence. He got out of his car and started saying he was the angel of death or something like that.
Okay, it doesn't sound like negligence when you do it like that, but okay.
He was deemed a crazy person, and I guess they recently let him out of the hospital on some sort of release program. So there you go. He only directs 1 more episode in season 4.
Wait, yeah, no, so this was the director's son we were talking about then.
His son, David.
Okay, just checking. All right, interesting. I was trying to find his Wikipedia here. I'm on the dad's Wikipedia. They tactfully don't mention it.
It's called the 2001 Isla Vista Killings. David, the Dan Attias, the director, they did try to bring up a civil case against him and his wife for recklessly permitting David to drive their car. The suit was settled confidentiality out of court, meaning they probably had to pay some people off.
Well, that was interesting. Let's talk about The Sopranos.
Yeah.
I guess. Episode 9 there. So what did you think of this episode, Jim? Is there something else I should know? Any horrible secrets about this episode? I mean, you already hit the 2 big ones, I think, Gaga and the car thing.
Well, it's weird because I feel like I have to get into some of those things because not a very strong episode, in my opinion.
You're not necessarily wrong. I mean, AJ really pulled his weight, but I don't think you're crazy for saying so.
It's not bad per se. It's fairly late in the season to be kind of hanging out, like, just chilling. This episode, I mean, because it's got some good moments, don't get me wrong. And I do like, even though we're focused, and I mean, I guess to the detriment of the episode, we're focusing on Jackie Jr., but I like the angle we're taking because, we've talked a lot about how Jackie Jr.'s thing is to constantly be like, Jackie, stay in school. Come on, dude. What are you doing? But I like that the angle here is that, no, now it's for real because you're involved with my family. Like before it was just kind of, polite, kind of being polite. Like, I got to at least do this because I made a promise to your father, which clearly wasn't a real promise. But now that, you're involved with my daughter, now this is a real thing and there are consequences. So at least I like that that's at least kind of ramping up.
Yeah, that's what made it feel like a late season episode to me because we've been talking about this Jackie situation for so fucking long, and it's been a lot of talking and not a lot happening. But now things are happening in it. As far as him, like he mentioned, it's getting serious now. But he's also at the same time trying to ramp up his mob influence and like, oh, I'm the one pulling strings behind here, and this guy's my friend, and that guy's my friend, and now I need a piece, and all of this stuff. So and Ralphie connects with that, of course. So there's some stuff going on. Overall, though, we are hanging out a lot, and we start hanging out at home with Tony giving a great romantic gift for no real reason. Always a real warning sign, isn't it?
Well, I mean, it is her birthday. It is
Okay.
Because
okay, I forgot. I'm as bad as Tony. I'm worse.
Well, no, but to your point, I almost thought like the way she was reacting, I was waiting for her to be like, my birthday is not for a month or something like that. But no, then everyone starts showing up like on cue, much like a sitcom.
It's very sitcom. Like even the way it's shot when she just comes in, like I'm home. It's like wide shot, and then he comes in, and you could have a laugh track on that. AJ hands over the Matrix. Ha 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 ha. It could work.
I do love that AJ hands over the Matrix. And I mean, because the even Meadow, it's like, oh, it's a thoughtful gift, but you hear the quick passing comment of, I put it on your credit card. So it's, it's disgusting children and a disgusting husband who's only giving you a nice ring because he's, an adulterous piece of shit. But and weirdly, I thought this was a gag they were doing. Because Tony comes in at first and he's like, happy birthday, but then he starts singing it differently.
Oh, I thought so too. I thought, and they do it again, obviously. Yeah. So I was like, this is a hilarious joke. And then it's almost like they do it just cause. I'm sure all know what we're talking about, but, for a long time, you couldn't sing happy birthday, the happy birthday song, because it was copyrighted. You had to pay a lot of money. So it's interrupted. He starts it like that, then he changes it into another tune, like they do at restaurants when they sing happy birthday. They'll just sing whatever bullshit. This is what I've heard on the Jim and Them podcast. It doesn't happen in my country, of course. Neither of them. And then later they just start happy, and someone knocks on the door. It's hilarious. And then they just sing it anyway.
But yeah, then they end up singing it. But yeah, I was totally, maybe that was still part of the bit. Maybe they only wanted to sing it once, because I believe now you don't have to pay. Yeah. But yeah, for a long time, there was this thing of like, oh, we're not going to put happy birthday in our project because you have to pay out the nose for the rights to it. But yeah, they eventually do pay it. But yes, we intercut, like as we're checking in on Carm's birthday, we check in at the Lollipop Club where there's Furio and I think Benny and just some guy we don't know who's crying about his club and the Vikings and how they missed an extra point. Which is setting things up. But then we cut back. Yeah, they're about to sing, and Jackie Jr. knocks on the door. He shows up with a nice bottle. They do a quick reference to "Have you heard the good news again?"
Yeah, I love that.
and then we have like Carmela's birthday party. We also check in at that birthday party. We do check in with the religious guy again when he's talking about what like alcohol is no good. And then Janice comes out, and Tony has to like point at her nose because apparently she's snorting coke in the bathroom during the party.
Because she comes out like, oh, but the Lord does this, mysterious ways, and then he just taps his nose, and she's like, all right, yeah, so thanks, cheers, brother.
It is a little like, not that there was this big arc for Janice, but I mean, we started with Janice, with some fallout from last season. She was, out of the state. And of course, they bring her back because Livia died. And then she has this moment, she steals the leg and then gets beat up and has this moment of enlightening where she becomes born again. But then from here, ever since then, it's just played as laughs. It's just played as goofs. Like there's nothing really to it. So, I mean, all right. Thanks for giving us the goofs, I guess, Janice.
Yeah, no, I was thinking the same thing. It's all comic relief from her. And not that she's the most. She's had her arcs. She's just in the background right now, so that's why they're playing it for laughs. And I feel like the whole part of her being like born again is like a big joke because it's just there to annoy Tony, but annoy Tony in a way where she's not like actually interfering with mob business or anything like that, like she may have been doing previously. So she has been, relegated to the rafters. She's away for now, and then we can get some laughs out of her. She's still around. She still gets a credit, gets some money. So that's good.
I mean,
we go back. Oh,
I was just going to say on that topic, on the positive side of that, as I do like the character, and I guess I appreciate that they're not trying to force her into the mob life or the mafia storyline after she's, embedded in it last season. So yeah, fair enough. They're keeping her around. I'll allow it.
Yeah. So we go back to the lollipop where Chris is bringing Adriana in and shows her the place, says she's going to be the owner / manager. And, but we're the shadow mob that runs everything. It is really interesting because I couldn't help but think in this scene and, throughout about the difference between their relationship and Tony's relationship with Carmilla, where Chris, Carmilla obviously always has known what Tony does, but there's been a separation of church and state in a way. And here it's more like, I don't know, because Adriana knows as well and she thinks it's cool and her family's in on it. But Carmilla, she could have been that as well, but she's so clearly not. She wants to be something different. So I don't know, it's just an interesting contrast.
Yeah, you're right, because I get it's definitely played different, although in a weird way, it would be like, Tony would bring Carm to a new house, I guess. But but with Christopher, it's a little bit more direct, even though he's clearly using her as like the front for this club that they're gonna do whatever they do with it. But she is kind of more directly involved. But hey, I guess it's just like, Tony gives Carmilla a ring, Christopher gives her a club. There's some parallels there. And then they bring in the fucking the owner has to come in and be like, yeah, he works for you. Like and backtrack a quick second here is we see AJ and Jackie Jr. bonding a little bit over football, and Meadow is like very smitten to the point where she's like, I want to see my little brother play football. Oh, I need to come to the game too. She's such a phony. But I mean, I guess as we see throughout this episode, Jackie Jr., I mean, if I could be blue for a moment, he must be giving that good dick, if I could say anything right now.
It's
because
very blue of you, yeah.
I mean, because she does his Edgar Allan Poe paper, gets him an A, and she gets the D. Because the first thing that she pulls out is she's like, you can repay me. She's pulling out a condom and whatnot. I'm like, Jesus, Meadow. God damn it.
Yeah, oh. I was just about to say, did she do a paper in this episode too? Fuck it, I'm an idiot. No, A's and D's all around. You are right. You are very much right. And it's interesting as well, not interesting, but it's funny. We see Meadow coming in. Even when she comes in at the start, she's like smiling. She's got a nice new look about her. She's a big city girl, and she's not the same depressed mess that she's been. So I guess it's fine. Nothing bad will come of this, I say. If you didn't know, I haven't watched The Sopranos before, so we'll see. But yes, so Tony and Carmilla are in bed, and Tony's watching another movie. Do you know which one this one is?
I didn't know offhand, obviously, but I did see it. God damn it!
Sorry to put you on the spot. I just assume you know everything, Jim.
It's a gift. It's a W.C. Fields movie. I guess David Chase is a big fan of W.C. Fields. They do mention that in the early season, Tony does an impression of Fields from The Bank Dick. I have heard David Chase reference The Bank Dick a lot in interviews, but yeah, he's watching W.C. Fields movie, and Carmilla is giving her concern about this relationship, which I was kind of I even though I have seen every episode, I forgot that she was concerned, and I mentioned it I think last episode when Rosalie's all excited, but Carmilla was kind of like, I don't know about this, and it all makes sense because she doesn't want. She's indirectly saying, like, I don't want Meadow to be with you, Tony.
Yeah.
Someone like you. She's better than this. And I think that's fair. And as we see through this episode, we get a flip-flop on where they're at on this Jackie Jr. and Meadow situation.
Yeah, that's true. But yeah, so we get the scene like you mentioned where oh, how can I repay you, etc. The condom comes out. Let's go to the next scene. It's in the gym. There's so when I first saw this, I was like, AJ's on the swim team too? Like, what an athlete. But no, they're just hanging out at night.
If you remember, AJ is on the swim team. I mean,
okay. Well,
remember Tony missed his swim meet last season.
Right, but he can't.
Second or something like that.
Can he fit in all that in his schedule?
Well, maybe he's dropped it now that he's a football star.
Well, he's, catching up on the nights, on the night shift. But yes, so some guys come in and they throw the teacher's desk in the pool. What did you think of this? Seemed pretty hilarious until someone smashed the glass, right?
Well, it's weird because it does, even like the way it's directed and shot, that feels like the big moment. But it's almost like, yeah, it is like worse, but it's all bad. It doesn't even feel to me like that's as like any worse than they're throwing like someone's desk in the pool. You know what I mean?
The desk I thought was fine, but then there's a box full of papers, and I'm like, well, that was probably more important than the desk, because the desk you could just pull up. It was a pretty shitty school desk. But then you throw in like bunches of files and probably someone's grades and papers and things, and that's like all goes in there. So you're right. It's kind of like, well, it's all bad.
Well, and I mean, what was the previous thing with AJ and his friends acting out? Was it just when they were sneaking around smoking weed? Because it wasn't there another thing that he had to get punished for before his?
I mean, he was drinking in like school, and the stole the communion wine. That was like seasons ago, though.
Okay, you're right. Yeah. Well, because it's it's reminiscent of that. It's also, I mean, as this episode plays out, it's very reminiscent of when Meadow had her party at Livia's house, because again, we're kind of back to how powerless you are as a parent and what you're supposed to do to discipline your kids. And in this case, we get a different angle because it's the old, like, the jocks get special treatment type deal. So you're even more powerless because you don't even have the school on your side that's also saying what you're doing is wrong.
And the weird thing about all of this is that even when that's happening, I'm like, well, clearly this is actually because of Tony, because even though how often the show tries to tell me that he's good at football, I just don't believe, I can't believe it. I haven't seen it enough, because he doesn't even believe it. He's just surprised by everyone saying he's good at it. So I almost am watching that like, but he's not that good. Maybe they just have a real shit team, so like anyone's okay, I guess.
Yeah, it is weird because it's like, I mean, I guess they showed us that he did that one good play, but I guess we're just supposed to assume that all this other time we haven't seen him play, that he's good. But I guess I prefer that because I don't want to spend a lot of time where it's like, and then this is AJ's game. It's, down 4th and 1. What's he going to do? And like they have to have a big moment for AJ. Hey, I guess he's good. He's a dumb jock. What do you want from him? Now we might jump around a bit just because I want to stay in this for a second, because as we, it plays out, like they don't find out immediately. Also, obviously, like there's a scene in between where AJ's hanging out with Jackie again, but when they find out and they're asking AJ like why he did it, because it's not just that. I mean, I don't even know if AJ didn't even do the worst of it. He's just kind of with his friends. So on one hand, I get why they're disappointed, but on the other hand, it's like they did specifically show it's not like AJ was the one that's like, let's fuck this shit up. He was just hanging out with his friends and you get caught up in it. And the main reason why I want to talk about it is because when they ask, like, why'd you do it? And he's just like, I don't know. It's because I have a very similar story. When I was in, I guess, summer of 7th grade, I lived in these apartment buildings, and then behind it was like these woods. And then if you go through the woods, there's this kid I went to school with. His house was on the other side of the woods, and he had a pool. And him and his family went on a vacation, and they were out of town. And me and my friends just went swimming in his pool because no one was there. But then we found out that his garage was open.
Right.
And there was a refrigerator in there, and there was like juice, and then there was steaks. And so we just started throwing the steaks in the pool.
Right. And then what happens?
So yeah, he went and just like taking like his lawn furniture and throwing that in the pool. And just like throwing all his stuff. smallest pool.
And this was your friend, you said.
Well, this was me and my friends. Yeah, we're all doing it.
Oh, but whose house was it?
Oh, it was a kid I went to school with. I mean, I wouldn't necessarily. He wasn't like an enemy, but he wasn't necessarily a friend either.
Well,
it was
clearly, yes.
and I guess if we could throw in a level of class warfare, it was like we're the kids that live in apartments. You have a house with a pool.
Yeah.
I mean, not that we understood that in our young minds, but I'm sure there's an element of it there. And then it was even to the point where like we knew like his grandmother lived with them and had almost like a separate kind of area. Like there was a separate entrance upstairs. Like there was an outside stairs that went up to like the second floor, and then we were trying to like break through the door. But like we don't know why we were doing it. It's just your kids, and for whatever reason, I guess there's just those rebellious moments. It's kind of like, you know, grabbing the world by the balls, I guess. Like we're all day long we're getting told what to do by our parents and by our teachers and stuff, but it's like now we're on our own, no one's around, we can do whatever we want. We did get caught, and it was a similar thing. It was just kind of like, why'd you do it? And it's like, I don't know, there were steaks in there. What are we gonna do, cook them? We're 13, you know.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, yeah, we all do things without exactly knowing why. It's pack mentality and all that, although I haven't done that specific thing. I mean, it sounds fun. I kind of wish I had done it when I was 13. It seems like I'd get in a lot of trouble if I did it now. But still, maybe I'd be better at not getting caught, so it could be, you know, either side, there's ups and downs. Yeah, I'll have to go looking for a pool. That sounds pretty... I mean, even watching this, I'm also kind of... It feels unfair. Just because he has a standard pizza that he really likes, he has to get fucked over from just that when all the other kids were doing the bad stuff and he was just, you know, helping. Ugh.
Yeah, that it is a fun way they go about it, where they find
I love that scene. The pizzeria scene is so like, that's, I mean, I know we joke about it being a lot like a sitcom. This isn't really like a sitcom, but it's just very funny with all new characters that have never been in the show, just talking back and forth, and it's hilarious. Like, who made this? Oh, what? This is your store logo. That's my books. It was at a crime scene. And it's like, they're so serious about it. My pizza never hurt nobody. You'll find no bacteria.
I love that line. My pizza never hurt nobody. It's like, tell me their names. I cracked their fucking skulls, or whatever he says. Yeah, that interaction is so great, because the comedy, it doesn't come off as like, I mean, clearly they're aware of what they're doing. They're playing out this comedic scene. It's not like in some drama shows where it becomes melodramatic and it's funny like unintentionally. They're just nailing some great humor here. I love this. The fact that they could trace the pizza down and then they have great interaction.
I mean, the dad's hilarious, and then the kid comes up and he's more serious, but he just opens it up and he's like, "That's a custom job." It's like, how so? Meatball, pepperoni, sausage. It's like a real coroner type analyzing what it is and like, extra mozzarella. Does this pie fit a pattern? Anyone order this regularly? I just love all these lines. I almost thought like, this guy's gonna get whacked, or at least he should think that he gets whacked. He knows who the Sopranos are. Everyone knows who the Sopranos are, but I guess he sells them out.
Yeah, I like it. He does kind of try not to at first. But yeah, they threaten him like, you know, you're an accessory after the fact because you know who ordered this pizza. And even like the dean or principal or whatever he's supposed to be of the school, like I like how his character is just this kind of over the top, like he's like the wall of pride. Like when he's looking around at all the devastation and he's like, who could have done this? And then yes, leads to AJ getting talking to, and I like how this plays out too, because Tony, in typical Tony fashion, he's always just kind of rolling out of bed with his hair sticking up and his robe on. So you he wanders into the scene and he doesn't know what happened, and he gets to find out like in the midst of it, as you know, because he's all like, "What are you doing home?" Like, because you know he's supposed to be at school, but he got sent home because they trashed the pool. How do you trash a pool? In between
on your mother's birthday.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah. And just like the other one, like on your confirmation or whatever it was.
That's right.
And in between this, Meadow shows up because she wants a car, and she's trying to make it seem like, you know, she wants to see the I can't come and have dinner every now and then, and she keeps giving not so subtle glances at Jackie Jr. This is before that, but anyways, yeah, AJ.
Yeah, I mean, clearly she should have a car, judging by last week's ending of the episode. She really needs that car. Like, how do you have that experience and your next thought is like, I need one of these of my own? Like, shouldn't she at least be a little bit like, maybe I'll just hold off a little bit on the car front? No, she just wants to get to that D just so much faster.
Absolutely. Oh, and when Tony's, mad at AJ here when he finds out, I guess this is what puts his like football thing over the top. And I can't tell if they're being serious or if this is just Tony latching on to a pipe dream when he's like, there goes your football career.
That's Tony. I read that as all Tony, Tony being ridiculous, like, because we already know that he thinks it's a lot bigger than AJ does, and this is like almost comedically so for him. It's been like, because wasn't it something about him too, like, of if this thing hadn't ever happened, I would have had a big football career. So he's just projecting that.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. And basically you're screwing everything up. And then we check in with Carm and Ro at Vesuvio's, where this is another Moozadell reference because Artie's really pushing this Moozadell that he got FedEx from Italy, and they're unimpressed.
Yep.
I mean, this kind of a whatever scene. I mean, I guess it's like they're talking about the relationship, and it makes sense because from what we know of Jackie Jr., because we've seen him in his more personal moments, he is a fuck up, dumb person. He's very much an extension of AJ in a different way. But yeah, it makes sense why Rosalie would be happy because Meadow, is put together. She's in college doing the right stuff. Although I guess you're supposed to think Jackie Jr. is, but she wants Jackie Jr. to be have a good influence with Meadow, and of course Carmela's worried about the bad influence of Jackie Jr. on Meadow.
Yeah, to the point I almost thought she'd pick that up when she keeps saying, "Oh, you did a great job. Meadow's so wonderful, so great. I'm so happy." And she's like, "Thank you." She's not like, "Oh, and your kid as well." Oh, yeah. Instead, they get into Artie, and apparently, there's the divorce is still happening. Lawyers are being hired left and right, so they talk a bit about that and like, "Oh, our husbands are real pieces of shit, but we never divorce them." Ha ha ha! And this keeps being brought up with Carmela over and over and over. I wish they'll just get a divorce already, so we'll get a different dynamic because they just keep doing it. And I know, there's a lot of this in this. So my prediction just early on here is this whole love affliction that's happening with Tony. It's just to get a final nail in the coffin of Carmela and Tony's relationship. This is going to be the thing that pushes it over the edge because we already got Carmela hurtling towards that direction. Add this on top and we'll get some sort of explosion, especially with the new character who's a little bit volatile. Something bad's going to happen and it's going to ruin the marriage. At least I think so. Fingers crossed.
Yeah. I mean, I can neither confirm nor deny anything you're saying, but I like your thought process. I will say that I like the subtlety of they have this conversation, and of course it ties into her thoughts with Meadow and someone like Jackie Jr. and kind of dealing with this thing of ours type marriage that she's in. And also, I'm not sure if it's for sure the next time we see her, but clearly when we see her and she has those earrings, it's because she's feeling all these feelings after this, especially this conversation with Rosalie. So she's like, you know what? I'm going to go buy some fucking earrings because I can't even think about this reality right now. I might as well get the earrings. And you know what? Who knows? Might get the necklace too because what the fuck am I dealing with right now? So I think that's a nice little moment they have there. And yes, we do see Tony and Gloria. He brings a gift to her. I like that Gloria's not really impressed by the gift. I thought they were going to play that up a little bit more, but I guess I kind of like that they don't because, I mean, she is a successful businesswoman from at least our understanding. She sells very expensive cars and, Tony was immediately impressed by how put together she was. I mean, as we'll start to see, maybe there's some hidden secrets behind those walls, but she's not really impressed, and she's, I guess, playing hard to get in a way because Tony just thinks like, I'm just going to take you away from work, but she might be selling $100,000 car. She ain't going nowhere with you, bro. What you got? You brought a purse? Get out of here.
Yeah, and I mean, she rolls up and like with a guy, and she says he buys a new 600 for me every year. I don't know what that is or means. Is this a guy who buys a car, or is it
Yeah,
a guy who she's fucking, or both? Like, and she shows off with this watch that she got last year due to the sale she made. Because I was really like, is she just saying she's fucking this guy and he gives her gifts? But no, he's buying cars every year, I guess.
yeah. I mean, there could be. I think Tony. The reason why Tony's playing so hard here is because he does maybe have that thought that she's probably
Yeah.
fucking this guy. But it could be read either way. Because yeah, Mercedes Benz 600. She could either be saying it paid for this watch, or I was given this watch as a gift because of my sales, or yeah, I'm just fucking this dude because he's rich and powerful.
Well, now that you mention it, I think your read is definitely right. But I was literally, I wasn't thinking like, oh, how do I analyze this? I was just confused by it because I don't know what a 600 is. But if you say that's a car, we'll go with that.
And then we get into Polly and Tony talking about snakes. I didn't bother to check this. I'm just going to assume that Polly's correct and snakes fuck themselves and have.
Now, I did the opposite. I didn't check it either, but I just assumed he was not correct.
Let's see. Do snakes need mates to lay an egg? Female snakes usually reproduce by breeding with one or more males who fertilize their eggs. Female
Right.
will then typically lay her eggs within weeks, or sisters are doing it for themselves. While traditionally female snakes need to mate with a male snake to produce fertilized eggs, some, like the flowerpot snake, produce young by a process called parthenogenesis, also known as asexual reproduction. So, yes, some snakes do fuck themselves, like as Polly so eloquently put it.
Well, your Googling is superior to mine in every way because I put in snake sex, and don't do that. Don't do that, everybody, okay? Just closing that tab out. Let's not linger on this any longer. Okay. So Jackie Jr. comes in, and like you mentioned, Tony gives him the talking to of like, no, but for real, this time it's for realsies. You're not allowed to fuck up. And of course, we know he's not in school anymore. And like, I feel like every character kind of knows that because he's never been at school and just, I guess he does lie here and say, well, no, wait, he says he got an A. Is he in school? I don't even know anymore.
Well, that's what I was going to ask too. Yeah, because the only thing that's weird is why would he have her do a paper for him? Unless is he even lying to her? And
No, but did he go? There was some scene about this. Did he like start at a different school, like a men's fashion school or something?
he said he wanted to. I don't know if he necessarily did.
But yeah, he's not doing the. He's clearly not doing the biochemistry thing, right?
Well, yeah, maybe he's just not doing med school. But because I was a little thrown off by this as well because she did a paper for him. But all I'm thinking is like, I thought he dropped out of school, unless it's just some other dumb Jackie Jr. side gig where he's like selling papers to people. And it seems like something he would do. He'd be on campus like, let me get you hooked up with an Edgar Allan Poe paper. It's like, but what? This is biology. Yeah. What do you I got to spell it out for you? You figure it out, you know. Classic Jackie. So yeah, I'm a little confused on that as well. I mean, I guess we can assume he is taking maybe general classes, but he's not doing med school. I don't know.
But it's just the way they do this scene where when Tony's like, how many days off do they give you at Rutgers? And he's like, oh, I got class 3 days a week. And it's like he's lying. Like, I can tell he's lying in his acting, but I also believe that he's doing some sort of school thing. And I think there was something where they kind of explained that much like a 600, I was just like, okay, school, I guess. Very much confused by everything. But it's clear that he's lying either way, and he's not on the straight and narrow. We know that much.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah,
because although I will say I was impressed that he like actually could say some things about Edgar Allan Poe, like great writer, what a fucking nut job, and he actually knew. I guess maybe he read it before he handed it in. So good job.
Well, I didn't double check this, but I just assumed what he was saying was wrong. But I mean, right? I'm not sure.
Well, I don't know. Probably wrong now that you mention it.
What did he say? Didn't he say he married his cousin?
Yeah, he did say that. But you and I don't know, so like, how are we gonna check? I'm not Googling anything more this episode, so
okay. No, I mean it's right. He married his Virginia Eliza Clem. He married. It was because it was okay to marry your underage first cousin. And then Edgar Allan Poe did exactly that. So yeah, she was only 13 when he married her. So
Cool.
why do we celebrate this guy? Me
Well-
too, motherfucker.
Well, the title, of course, the Telltale Moozadell, is also a play on his short story, The Telltale Heart. And of course, our hearts go out to Telltale Games, who recently shut down. That this is a time capsule of a show as we're going through here. Telltale Games. Oh, even another Clementine, important in all of our histories.
Oh, wow.
And that's all gone now. Yeah.
The layers of this show, my goodness.
Yeah,
Why are you
so many
not
references.
5-star reviews?
Oh shit, Jim.
Yes.
Fucking, we got a review. I know this is out of the ordinary, but hey, like Jim mentioned, why not submit a review? Let's do a quick ad break here where we just quickly go through here and just fucking update this fucking shit. We did get a review. We got a review this week. Fucking, don't we have a sounder for that, Jim? Can we get a sounder for this?
We sounder
You
for it.
should have a sounder for it, absolutely. Okay, so it's not loading right now, so consider this, oh, here it is. Okay, great. This is from R. Kelly's ATL Porta Potty. Listen to just about every one on the iTunes. What the fuck? Listen to just about everything the iTunes world has to offer, but this one takes the cake. Deep dives into the themes and influences that develop the greatest TV show of all time. Sorry, not sorry. The Wire, Mad Men, and Thrones. The kicker is that we get a goofy Scandinavian guy, Jacob, to analyze through his first watch of the show. I'm always kind of jealous of those who get to watch it for the first time. And that's a 5-star review. Best Sopranos podcast out there. Thank you very much. And if you would like to submit a review, please do so on iTunes. We'll also give you a shout out on the show.
Yeah, preferably at the beginning of the show.
Yeah, I know. Or the end. Don't just throw it in the middle. But it had to be done before I forgot. Had to be done. I am goofy. I can't help it. Oh.
Okay, yeah, and Peter, thank you, Peter C, in the chat. We also do broadcast live on our YouTube channel. I checked if Edgar Allan Poe was from the Bronx, and it was true. Because I totally thought, I was like, there's no way that's true. I should have done my due diligence. But hey, good for you, Jackie Jr.
Yeah, well done. Okay. So, it's the opening night at the Crazy Horse, and damn, if there ain't a crowd in there, I guess they really did turn that place around. And then a band starts playing, and this feels like we're in, like, Buffy the Vampire Slayer with this music and this place. It feels like the Bronx, except everyone's drinking beer, which they rarely did in there. So, it's great. They're selling ecstasy in the bathroom, just like in Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
One of my favorite moments, again, I think going over this episode, they do have a lot of little subtle notes to it that I really like. And I guess this isn't that subtle, but I love that Artie's in the crowd and he's got his earring and he's such a classic divorcee midlife crisis guy. It's such a quick thing, but he's like really feeling the music and he's like in the crowd. I'm like, of course, and there's this whole storyline going on that we're not seeing on screen where Artie is like cruising for chicks at the new grand opening of the Crazy Horse, probably longingly staring at Adriana sometimes, and also thinking like, oh, this is a cool hip spot and this is where I'm going to start my new life. But anyways, that's what I'm reading from it.
Yeah, and they mix it so like the music is drowning everything out. I would say like it's kind of a calm song for doing that sort of mix, but I guess it doesn't matter. It would have made more sense kind of if it was a really loud song, like a really in-your-face song. But either way, they can't hear anything. Chris comes up and gets a pat on the back from Paulie Walnuts, which is interesting because, last time we saw he was sniffing Adriana's panties and digging out all their perk shoes and everything, and now they're all up hugging on each other because, hey, life's great now. You got your own thing on the side.
Well, and I was surprised that he gives them an envelope. Because I was like, what, Paulie giving someone money? And I wasn't even sure why he did. But, I mean, he hands him an envelope. I guess maybe it's just a congratulations. That's like, like we learned from Goodfellas when they line up with their envelopes at the wedding. Christopher married a club. So he gets an envelope of money. And, yes, exactly. we meet Matouche dealing drugs in the bathroom, and he gets a good talking to by Furio and kicked in his ass and sent packing. And then we check in with Tony and Gloria at the zoo. and talking about the apes, and Tony's just all grabbing up on her, being all over her. She's trying to talk about the animals, and then he gets annoyed that she has a Buddhist talisman, and they kind of have a little side discussion on that. And he's like, I think he says something like, why can't you just be Catholic? Why can't you be like Roman?
No, he says, what's wrong with Catholicism, which is a big question to ask Tony.
And yeah, so kind of talk through that a little bit, and we get back to the snake motif because they kind of duck in. Well, first he's like grabbing up on her and making out with her in front of kids. She brings up, where are your kids right now? And then he says, bye-bye, that's my heart on. And then she's like, liar, because she grabs his dick.
What is up with this scene, though? Like, you're saying all this, and I'm just brought back to it, and I'm like, oh yeah, that did all happen, I guess.
Yeah, I guess they're playing up how, like, I guess we've never really seen, besides when Tony went to Italy, although they didn't end up having sex outside of his dream, we haven't seen she kind of takes more charge with Tony than anyone else we've seen. So I guess maybe that's kind of what we're playing off of. And I guess he's digging that, and he likes that even though he is mad about the Buddhist stuff, he likes it because it's like, again, it's this new interesting thing to him. And then like the snakes come back, so this is clearly like meaning something here. He even brings it up like, yeah, my friend says snakes can fuck themselves, and they fuck by the snake exhibit in the zoo.
Yeah, the snake place. Very true. Very sort of phallic all around, I suppose.
Well,
just don't Google it, everyone. Like, it's more phallic than you'd imagine or would think was possible physically.
Well, and also going back, because when Paulie does say that, Tony brings up Adam and Eve, so I guess we are getting into like temptation. And she is Eve tempting, or the snakes tempting Tony, what have you. I mean, Tony and animals. That's going to be, it's been a recurring theme. It'll continue to be a recurring theme. Tony just has really interesting relationships with animals. And when it comes to snakes, we know ducks are his family. And when it comes to snakes, it's fucking.
Well, and the gorilla as well, even with the way they shoot it, it's very parallel. Like, he is a big hulking guy. We're always describing him as a sort of big bear of a man, but like the gorilla is not a bad thing either to compare him to when they say like, oh, like she says, oh, he looks so innocent. And he's like, yeah, that thing could rip you apart. And it's like, oh, the layers. And
especially the way he's like, he really is all over her, and he's really just like a giant comforter just wrapped around her. So yeah, I guess they're playing with a lot of things here to set up a scene where he fucks her by a snake. And then the dealer goes to Jackie Jr. To have a sit down. Not a great idea. Someone with no power. And Jackie is playing up the part. I think they do mention it on the wiki that like he's doing kind of the Godfather, like Brando, like the way he's sitting and he's got his finger to his temple and he's like really thinking about it. And he's like, I'll have a sit down. Let me help you out. And, we'll see how that plays out.
Well, yeah, and he even has the guy behind him, like, because he has to have a guy behind him. And the guy was playing pool with Gigi, whatever his name was. I don't recall.
The one that died on the toilet. But yeah, I forget that guy's name.
Right, so we're great at this podcasting business, clearly. But yeah, he's there like, oh, we're done here and all that. And it like gives the impression that it's like he has someone with status, and it seems like it. That's why it's a great reversal as well with later when he's in the hospital. It's like, I don't think they like you. When it's like clear that he didn't do shit for him. So then we're in school and we get the scene with the principal. We already mentioned it, how Tony kind of and Carmela especially is like, wait, but we said this was going to happen. And they're like, we believe it's against his best interest to sever his relationship with the squad, and etc., etc. So getting out of there, Carmela's upset that, oh, you just rolled over and did whatever. And she's actually upset about something else here, presumably, because he did actually ask, like, wait, what? Are we not doing the detention even?
Yeah, I don't know if it's still this whole thing with looking at Meadows' potential with Jackie Jr., reflecting on the choices she made and how she's here with Tony. And even though she loves to get, she loves her big house and the money and the rings she gets, there's still the reality of it's clearly not a healthy relationship. And plus, maybe playing a little bit off of what we've seen when she went to a therapist and, was basically told, you need to leave this person.
Yeah.
You can't be here. And I guess in a little bit, still the AJ thing, because he doesn't put up, Tony does mention some stuff, but he doesn't really put up that big of a fight. But again, like, I would think you'd be more mad at the school than anything else.
Yeah. And moving on, we do have a therapy scene with someone other than Tony. With Melfi. Have we had that before? I don't think so.
No, just besides, Carmela that one time. But yeah, it is interesting. We get to kind of peek in to, this new character in Tony's life. They do share a therapist. So we've been in this room seeing Tony spill his guts, and now we see Gloria there, and we get a few little peeks at what her reality is, because what she says, she's had a good 2 weeks, and Melfi asks her about her nightmares, which I guess is a recurring thing. And she does bring up that she had an attempted suicide over a breakup. And as we know from Tony and his Russian guma, he may not handle breakups that well. So who knows where that's going to go. And Gloria gets very mad because Melfi's a detective in her own right. She knows something's going on, and she heard a male's voice. I do like that it makes sense because Melfi's like, well, no, you've had, crisis and trauma in your life because of relationships. So if you're lying to me about your appointment and you're secretly with a guy, it's completely rational that I'd ask, what's going on.
Yeah, and clearly she just heard that it was Tony anyway. Although next scene, well, I'll skip over the scene in between just to mention it. The next scene with Tony in therapy, I guess that's a lot later. Maybe I'm skipping too far. But either way, I love what this brings her to when she gets a call from her son and picks it up like, I hate all my patients. And I love that her son, who otherwise hasn't been that much of a three-dimensional character, like, it makes perfect sense that he's like, yeah, Mom, I know, everyone sucks. Like, it's awful, really.
It is
because
funny.
Of course, they're both there and they're just all smiley in therapy, and she knows what's going on, and the turning point is clearly when he quotes some fucking Buddhist nonsense, and she's like, well, even more obvious now. And the thing that upsets her is, it's up to you how much progress you want to make. It depends on how honest you are with yourself and with me, and they're not honest, and they're wasting her time. So that's why she yells into the phone there.
Yeah, and I do want to say that I like, even though her son, he's not really like a full character. I like that actor, and I like how they use him because I really like this scene and the payoff. And I also like that, I do think that Melfi was like, was that Tony? But it took a little bit for her to be like, okay, no, it was definitely Tony. Because it just made more sense that she wouldn't immediately be like, oh my God, Tony's in the background of this call, you liar. But as it plays out, and she, the way Gloria's talking, and then the way Tony's talking, because Tony's kind of doing the same thing. He's just kind of whining about AJ's situation, but then he's, talking about how good things are. And starts talking about like a Buddhist point of view, because what she's like, that sounds very Eastern. He's like, well, yeah, I'm from New Jersey. And she's like, well, no, that's not what I mean. Nice little joke. But yes, then she gets the call and immediately is like, I fucking hate them all. And he's like, yeah, fuck them, quit.
Yes. So in between those two scenes, we do get a scene at the Bing where Silvio's laying it out for Chris, who's a new entertainment connoisseur or bar owner, like, oh, it's not the easy life and all that. I suspect he might be right. I suspect we'll get some of that going on, because it's not going to be like opening night glitz and glamour forever. It's going to come with some issues. It's going to be a bit of a money sink. Maybe you're going to have to set fire to it for the insurance eventually, and maybe Adriana won't like that. But either way, Silvio has to head off. Jackie Jr. comes in, tries to do his smooth talking and all, and Christopher's not having it. And I had to think, like, why aren't they friendly anymore? Because they did do that robbery together, but I guess after that, he was told very strictly by Tony, leave him the fuck out of everything. So I guess that's why he's being a dick. They don't really dislike each other, or didn't previously. I mean, well, yeah, they did, but then they ended up working together, so I don't know.
Well, I think it's also for Christopher like a status thing as well. You know, kind of like one of his other interactions with Jackie Jr. was when Jackie Jr. disrespected the pizza place. And then Chris was like, you know, I don't want to be an asshole, but I can't be seen around here anymore. I think it's also an extension of that, where it's like, before it was more he was desperate. That's why he hooked up with Jackie Jr. to go on that sting, because he needed money to give Paulie. But not that we've directly seen it. Well, I mean, I guess we're kind of directly seeing it now that he has a club. Things are starting to fall into place. He's starting to get the hang of it a little bit. So he's not just going to have a sit down with this piece of shit. Plus, yeah, on top of it, Tony said, you know, we don't want to be dealing with Jackie Jr. to keep him out of this shit. And because he's just kind of playing it cool. Like, I don't feel like a chat is this thing like he brings it up. Like, I like how it's like, well, you know, we don't have time for a sit down. We got time for a chat. And it's like, all right, what's the difference? I think he's just being a dick. But either way, I love that Jackie's finally getting a little bit hip to the game because he sees Tony and he's like, oh my God, I better get the fuck out of here because Tony's going to freak if he sees me here.
Yeah, because it's a strip club, even as bad, almost as bad as being seen at a casino. But yeah, of course he goes to the guy and he's like, I got it all sorted, it's fine. I can't relate to this, at least, because I will always, like, just fake it till you make it. And he basically tells this guy to fake it and then eventually it'll be fine. He does say, like, oh, as long as it's outside. Guess that makes sense in his mind. But of course it doesn't work out. He tries to wet his beak a little too. He says, oh, my beak's parched. Please let me wet my beak there. And even here it's like the guy says, like, sure, I'll take care of you. Like, the power dynamic is already shifting of like, oh, you said you would fix this, but you haven't actually fixed this. But then obviously it gets even worse. And the next scene. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
It's kind of a. It's almost a take off what we saw that Johnny Sack was doing last week, but obviously Johnny Sack's much smarter and more experienced in this stuff when he was handling Ralphie and Tony, where he's like, yeah, you know, Ralphie, yeah, Ralphie, Tony wants to sit down, even though he doesn't. But Jackie's just dumb and he thinks he can do the same thing. And his brilliant idea is tell him it's okay as long as he's outside the club, because, you know, Furio will never figure out that he's dealing outside of the club. And it ends in tragedy.
Yeah, as so many things do. But something that ends in comedy is the next scene where we have Carmela and Tony lecturing AJ. We get the scene from the beginning about the gutters. They're on the edge. They collect the water. What? They're the gutters, okay? You have to clear them out. Now, I will say, even though I know what the gutters are, I've never had to have them cleared out. I don't know, because, I don't know, you just have trees really close to them, that'll fuck them up, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, where I live now, I live in a house here, but it's in the desert. So we don't have, I mean, we have rain now and then, but we don't have, like, seasons where the leaves are falling and all that. And back east, I always lived in apartments, so someone else would clean the gutters of those buildings. But it makes sense in a house where there's fall and there's rainstorms a lot. You get the leaves falling, you got dirt and whatnot blowing around. Sometimes the gutters get clogged. Someone's going to go in and clean them. But AJ is so privileged, she doesn't even know what they are.
Yeah, well, I will say the last house I stayed in, it was not so much an issue with the gutters. We were more, maybe there was an issue. We were just more concerned about the rain coming in through the actual roof. So that was like, that was a bit higher on the list of priorities. So we never really bothered about the gutters. I mean, this is the very end of the episode, but the last scene there's leaves coming down as he's clearing the gutters. I fully expected the final shot for him just to fall down, right?
Yeah, I think we're all waiting for it. We're all waiting for it. That would be the full transition from Sopranos, the dramedy, I guess you could say, to Sopranos, the sitcom.
Yeah, absolutely. So next scene, Jackie goes to see the guy who's in hospital, and he's all fucked up. He's speaking to, like, his teeth are all nailed together or whatever they do for that. And you think this is funny? And Jackie does think it's funny, but he's like, oh, man, sorry about that, man. You must have disrespected them. What can I say?
Yes, yeah, and I mean, we had a quick scene where he is dealing outside, kind of according to what Jackie had told him, but Furio and his goons show up, and they need to teach him a lesson. And yeah, his jaw's wired, and he says something like "they don't give fuck" or something like that. About he's like, "Did you say my name? Did you say did you say that I talked to Christopher?" And they throw in a nice little goof where he's like, "Can you pass me the, the bedpan? I need to pee." And Jackie Jr. can't even do that. He can't even give him the bedpan. Hey, maybe a nurse will give you a cheap thrill. And it's weird because I'm trying to figure out what kind of. I guess he has somewhat self-awareness because I assume that's why he's asking for a gun, because maybe he's like, uh-oh, am I in danger if this guy is saying my name? Or it's just another boneheaded Jackie Jr. decision, because clearly him having a gun, if he's just using it for protection, maybe, but this guy is a comedy of errors, so I assume it won't end well for him.
Well, I thought maybe it was like, all right, I got to deal with this issue on my own, but like he doesn't care that much either. So I can't say. I think it's just that he feels impotent from the whole exchange of like he thought, I have this clout, I can get this done, and he can't get anything done. So at least if he has a gun, he'll feel a bit more powerful, like most people do if they get a big gun, or a small gun, a 38. It'll get the job done. But the most important thing about this upcoming scene here is, of course, the pasta. What do you? Yeah, like, because I just cooked pasta before our recording here. I tried this out. I will say my meal was probably not as well cooked. I don't have a gas oven, so maybe it doesn't work the same way. What do you do with your pasta after you drain it, Jim?
I actually haven't done this trick, but when I was watching it, I was like, I have to try this the next time I make pasta. I really like Ralphie in this scene.
Yeah.
It's a quick Ralphie scene. We haven't seen a lot of Ralphie, but I mean, we've seen a lot of in this episode, but we've seen a lot of him in the previous ones. So it's kind of a weird, touching scene for Ralphie because, he's being a nice guy. He's being a family man. He's making dinner. He's giving tips. He's giving away guns. He's, doing what he thinks is right. And I feel like if we do this pasta technique properly, we'll be doing it for the rest of our days and teaching our children who teach their children.
Well, again, so we're gonna get into this for the rest of the episode. When I drain my pasta, what I would usually do is put it back in the pot. I'd put a little bit of oil in it, and I'd put it back on the heat and stir it around. So that makes it so it doesn't stick together. Obviously, you don't want to put too much. You don't want it to be all slick, but it just gives it a bit of something. But putting in butter, I think, would have a very similar effect, except it would make it even more rich, maybe a bit too rich. Well, but I haven't tried putting in the gravy. So, I did try it today. It was fine, but maybe I need real butter or real gravy. Gravy. What the fuck is that, by the way? But okay.
I don't typically put it back in the pot, but no, the butter part I do. That's my parents would do that too. It would actually be when we have it in the strainer and it's still. Now we're talking about pasta, my dude.
No, that's all I've wanted since I watched this scene. Go ahead.
Well, yeah, typically when we have it in the strainer, it's still nice and piping hot because it kind of just got strained, and then then we put a good chunk of butter in it and let the butter start to melt naturally. Nice. Then you kind of shake it up a little bit, let it go through, because that'll keep it from sticking. And it does seem like it will help it absorb the gravy, if you will. But I'm wondering now, you throw a little gravy in there, turn the heat up, make it absorb it even more. Madone.
It certainly could. Do you pour boiling water over the pasta as you're draining it?
No.
That's a little trick I do where, I don't know if it actually helps or anything, but take it out, you obviously strain it, but then it's all like, I don't know, just get some boiling water on there. It gives it a little bit of extra heat. So you just pour it and it cleans it off more properly than just shaking it around. So all the little gunk gets out of there. But I like your idea. We'll report back next week with our new pasta techniques. And like you mentioned, it is a nice homemaker moment for Ralphie because we've just seen him murder people for no reason. So here it's he actually can be a guy who's useful to be around. And he's the only one who Jackie Jr. can go to when he's oh yeah, you can have my gun. He's the only one who's opening the door for this kid in the way he wants to. So I don't know. It is a nice scene. I liked it.
Well, and I've been talking about this a little bit in previous episodes as well. Most other shows wouldn't, once you have Ralphie murder a pregnant girl,
Yeah.
it would just be like, villain. This guy's a villain. He's a villain. And they're not doing that. Like, they're kind of, in their way, going out of their way to almost endear him to us, outside of the fact that he is the, an antagonist to Tony. But the way they even played that out, like I was saying last week, I was feeling sorry for him a bit, just because, like we went over it. Tony was making decisions not in his own best interest. But, here we go. I'm liking Ralphie even more. So I'm just hoping he turns this thing around.
Yeah, we'll see. Next scene is in, I suppose, a fancy hotel room with Tony and Gloria, and they do some more seducing back and forth, where she says, I want you to know I don't expect anything from you except kindness. And he says, okay. And she says, oh, you really are in love with yourself, aren't you? And there's like so much going on in her brain that we can feel that for Tony, it really is like, wow, that woman's so hot. I love how hot that woman is and that she's talking to me, and I want her to keep talking to me and having sex with me. There presumably is a lot more going on in her head.
Well, Peter C in the chat made this comment earlier when we were talking about Tony and Gloria, and he's I give a shout out to Peter C because he hasn't watched Sopranos either, much like you, Jacob, and he's actually shown restraint to watch it week to week with us and go along with the podcast. But
a hero, if you will, of the people.
Yeah, he says, I feel like it's obvious that although Tony loves being with Gloria in the moment, he views it much less serious than Gloria does. He likes how he likes it how it doesn't want any sort of real relationship. Which, yeah, I mean, it's this weird. Like, I think he likes the fact that she's in therapy a lot too. Like that, there's this, I don't know, not danger per se, but she's a wild card. And I mean, as we see, because then she takes his gun out and she's like swinging the gun around and talking about how heavy it is. And as we know, she did try to commit suicide before. I mean, Tony doesn't know any of this, but, I guess, she's naked on him, grinding on him, and then playing around with his gun. So this is like a great moment for Tony. He's almost entering Janice levels then. They're a step away from she can hold the gun to his head.
Yeah, and I mean, next scene is the one we already mentioned where he's in therapy, and it's very noticeable how happy he is. Another extra slap in the face that we didn't even mention is how he's like, here, have a little extra on top, like, just because of the good results this week. And it's such a fucking fuck you, because it's so selfish and so weird that, like, he's feeling better in the moment and he pays for it, but she knows he's having sex with her other patient and it might end up actually endangering her or making things fucked up. And it's like, I'm not here to make you feel good. I mean, in a way, I suppose she is, but, like, I'm not some prostitute that you can give a tip when I do a better job for 1 week.
It's even one better. She's a pimp. Like, he's tipping the pimp that hooked him up with the great prostitute. Like, it's like, that's kind of the level. But then it gets to the point where, her son needs some expensive books. Well, all right, I got this pimp money. I mean, what are we gonna do? Not spend the pimp money?
Well, that would be silly. Then it would just be sitting there reminding you that you had to be a pimp. And he did ask last week. He did ask about, like, oh, tell me more about this Gloria girl. And then, like, next week, well, she's clever. She puts it together. Hence the conversation with her son. She hates everyone.
Yes, yeah. And then we go back to the casino. Tony shows up and he sees Jackie Jr.'s there, and finally a little bit more of an elevated contact with Jackie Jr. because he like kind of throws him against the wall, right? And he's like, what did I just tell you? And Jackie Jr. always tries to come up with his old, like, I was at a bachelor party, I was dragged over here. Like, he always has these excuses, but no, Tony's not hearing it anymore.
Exactly. So next scene is the final one. Is this where
that's when she gets the earrings? All right, I'm sorry. So it's at the end, but it's clearly because of how she's feeling about their relationship that she gets the earrings. But now this is where we see the flip. Now Tony's second guessing this Jackie Jr. Meadow thing, but Carm's maybe a little bit more on board.
Yeah, that's about the end of it. We see the leaves falling and all that, but yeah. like to, I think Peter in the chat said also another episode that didn't really hit into the central narrative. This season continues to be a bit all over the place,
Yeah.
and I feel like that as well. And I think when we're watching a show that's coming out live for the first time, almost every season feels like that, unless it's an amazing show like The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. If you're watching a show and in the middle of the season, it's like, I don't really know what they're doing, but I guess they might figure it out. In this case, you're watching it after the fact. Maybe you have more insight into this, but I feel like some of the things are like, well, this is going to build up, or it is building up. You can't really tell, but it is, and there's something's going to pay off. But at the same time, the pace here is a bit strange, and I don't know. I don't want to be too critical, but I don't think season 3 is my favorite season so far, comparing it with the other two. In fact, it's probably at the bottom for me. Obviously, we haven't finished it, and I don't think it's bad, but it's just there was a lot more consistency in previous seasons.
Well, I think, I think all those criticisms are fair. I do feel like they haven't nailed it yet, but as this show goes on, they get more and more focused and I guess focus. They just get more and more focused on theme over than plot, and I feel like that's what they're doing here, and it's a little bit clunky as they're trying to do it because we're used to a little bit more of a formula as far as, you know, Tony's antagonists and how they build and how that pays off, and they're doing that a little bit here, but yeah, they're jumping around a bit because it's like we have this Jackie Jr. thing which hasn't advanced a ton until now, I guess, here in episode 9, but again, it's something that's been like weaved throughout all the previous 8 episodes, and then of course Ralphie, where it's been kind of like a hot and cold thing, where it seemed like kind of such an urgent, most important thing, and then it would take like the back seat for a little bit and then kind of come back. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting what they're doing. I don't think it's outside of criticism. I think there is some method to their madness, but I also feel like like I've mentioned this before, sometimes they might have some slip ups, but then people like critics or us, or just because the show's so good, will be like, oh my god, this is genius, when it's not necessarily what they meant to do. But again, it's like, I guess part of the running thing with this season as well, and I mean, we've talked about it with some of the, you know, bigger scenes, whether it be the rape scene or the Ralphie eating Tracy, is they're trying, the showrunners, and I mean David Chase and the writers are trying to show us that like they're not in it for this mob game like we are, and they want us to feel bad about it, and it's not necessarily working. And I mean, even in this, like, what is like the mob stuff we've seen in this episode? I mean, I guess we see it in a goofy way through the Jackie Jr. lens outside
the club, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say outside like Christopher and the club. But I don't know. Yeah, it's definitely something to look at and try to figure out like where they're going here, and how much of it is a result of Tony not having Livia Soprano in his life and having that, I guess, push from that character. Because even though she wasn't directly involved with Tony by design of the plot in season 2, they were clearly trying to lead towards something here, and they weren't able to quite pay it off the way they wanted to.
Yeah. I keep coming back to that, like the start of the season, how it was propelled into some weird direction, and there have been great episodes, like is a couple of my favorite episodes of the show even. So it's not that I dislike the season, it's just that it hasn't felt as consistently like heading in the same direction. But that's interesting what you say about theme. It could be that this is in the transition, you know, when they're still like hinging it a bit on the plot, a bit on the theme, and I look forward to seeing how they wrap up the season, which is coming up very fast. Now, your opinion could be communicated to us in two ways, dear listener. You could either send us an email to showswhatyouknowshow@gmail.com with your thoughts on this episode or an upcoming episode. I tend to stay out of those emails until we reach the episode, but feel free to throw in some spoilers as long as it's not in the fucking subject line. And beyond that, shows what you...
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. I just wanted to what you're saying. I'll redact any information if need be and let Jacob see it through my filter.
Much appreciated. That's showswhatyouknowshow@gmail.com. As previously mentioned, in an untimely fashion, you can also leave a review on iTunes, preferably a 5-star one. That's just by searching Cut to Black. Please do type it out for us if you don't mind. We'll read it out, give you a little shout out, and we do appreciate every single one of those. So a review on iTunes wouldn't be amiss. Is there anything else, Jim?
Well, I mean, if you're listening live or if you want to check out some of our other shows, we will be recording right after this an episode on American Vandal Season 2. So if you want to hear more of our television breakdowns, you can get on showswhatyouknow.com, or you can stick around on our YouTube, where we'll be breaking down a great show on Netflix if you're unfamiliar. So yeah, stick around for that. Plus, there's one other thing.
Oh, what's that?
Cut to Black.